My name is Carl Anthony, and I work in the automotive industry in Detroit. Sometimes that work encompasses future vehicle technology, and that's what we talk about here, for the most part anyway. This is AutoVision News Radio. A graduate of Lawrence Tech University, Don Wright has over 25 years of experience in the powertrain test business and has held a variety of roles during that time, including system engineering, R&D development manager, and now vice president of engineering at Unico, which you may sometimes see written as Unico LLC. When it comes to EV testing solutions, Don is well versed in e-motors, inverters, e-axles, e-powertrains, fuel cells, and batteries, including cell, module, subpack, and pack. We will borrow some of that battery power now for our DeLorean time machine. We'll travel back to 1967.
You're listening to AutoVision News Radio with Carl Anthony in Detroit, Michigan.
The St. Louis Cardinals have won the World Series. Buffalo Springfield, Jefferson Airplane, the Association, and Aretha Franklin are on the radio. The Boeing 737 lifted off for its maiden flight, and the Shelby GT500, a beloved and sought-after muscle car today, is seen for the first time. And a vision shared by 7 engineers will take shape as Unico Engineering. The goal is straightforward: to help customers advance in their industries by creating electronic motion control technologies instead of hydraulic ones.
It was one of the first companies that was doing digital control of drives for electric motors. And those electric motors were used in kind of the production environment. And this transitioned or added into a automotive test space in the 80s as engine testing became more prevalent. You know, there was a lot more emissions requirements. And so a lot of companies were applying Unico drives for dynamometers and other equipment for testing engines and transmissions. And then, of course, in the late 90s and the early 2000s, this transitioned into electrification test systems. So testing electric motors and testing batteries as electrification just started to become prevalent in the automotive industry. That is, of course, a tremendous focus for Unico today, supporting OEMs and startups that are creating today's and tomorrow's electric vehicles, whether they're on the road, in the air, on the water, doing construction, farming, digging holes in the ground. We provide test equipment for the electrification space.
In March of 2023, Unico launched its Quantum Drive platform, which Don and I also refer to as the Quantum Controller. Manufactured in Wisconsin, the Quantum Drive is a universal test system platform designed specifically for EV powertrain development.
We found that over time, customers were asking us to do more advanced technologies with their test systems, and we were able to cover these things. We were able to go to higher switching frequencies with our existing technologies, and we've been able to support the transition into the electric vehicle test market quite substantially with our existing platform. However, customers always are coming to us with new challenges, and those challenges range from performance specs on the test bed to better utilization of the power in their test labs to doing advanced control algorithms, using our controller. And to do this, we needed to, let's say, have a generation leap in our controller. This is where the quantum controller comes in. We're utilizing several new technologies, including a lot of fiber optic technologies for communication amongst multiple power sections, so that we can coordinate those power sections better at very high speeds. This supports also the utilization of new wide bandgap technologies like silicon carbide and GaN for our test systems. And all of this will allow our customers to have a more open and better platform for doing their EV development and testing.
Key learnings inspired the Quantum Controller's key features. For example, the Quantum Controller allows multiple pack, module, and cell test channels to be utilized in a single system for back-to-back testing. The discharge energy from one channel can be used as the charge energy for another, yet it can also be equipped with a second life battery energy storage system to save energy for later.
It's a challenge to find all the power that is needed for these test facilities. So we all know about a lot of the very high performance electric vehicles that are out there today. You look at these very large battery packs that need to be tested. And if you do a proper DVP program on these batteries, you need to have lots of test systems. And if we're looking at megawatt or 2 megawatt test systems, and you need 10 or 20 of those inside of a battery test facility, you're talking megawatts of power that you have to go to the local municipality, the local energy company. You have to get the requirements to get that amount of energy in and out of the building. Because, of course, as you regen energy, you're putting energy back out. All traditional test equipment typically can regenerate energy. We have a unique possibility with our quantum controller to allow us to share the energy amongst test systems and inside on the common DC bus. So we can have multiple battery test channels, 1 megawatt, 2 megawatts, all on a common DC bus. So that, for example, if you're discharging a battery on one channel, you can be charging another battery on another and recirculate that energy inside of the test system. And this provides a substantial cost savings for installation as well as operation for our customers.
One thing I enjoy about working in automotive is when I meet and talk with different companies, I am always fascinated by who their customers are, what challenges and problems they're trying to tackle and address, essentially what keeps them up at night. At Unico, Don and his team work with a range of customers, each with different needs and desires.
You know, the first customer type, they've probably been testing for years. They're very deep into the technology. They know exactly what they want, and they come to us with a spec and they say, hey, we need a battery cycler that can do this much power, this much voltage, this much current. We need to have this flexibility. We need to have these interfaces, and they can choose from a catalog of standard systems, or we can create a custom system for them. The other types of customers come to us and they say, hey, we are developing an electric motor and we need to be able to test the inverter before we have the electric motor available. How do we do this? And we then explore different testing options, either, like I said before, from our standard catalog or from custom systems. And we help guide them along the way to figure out what test systems they need and what test equipment will better suit them. We don't do integration into facilities. So then we also have lots of partners that we work together with so that we can build a complete test system with our partners to support the development program from the customer.
To help me better understand where Unico fits into the greater process, as it were, Don referenced the V model. There is a link in the show notes to an article written by technology journalist Robert Preston. It's on Indeed, and I found it really helpful. Allow me now to quote Preston's words. The V model is a project management system that's popular in software and web development. This model uses sequential phases paired with validation tests that allow the development team to set clear expectations and identify potential flaws throughout the process without needing a final build first. Preston continues in his writing, saying, quote, on the left side of the V-shaped graph, the project manager includes details for each of the verification phases. These phases illustrate what the customer's requirements are and how the team plans to achieve them. The right side of the V represents the validation phases. This includes the specific tests the team must perform to validate whether the software meets all of the customer's requirements. Near the end of the article, Preston explains how the V model can be rigid, strict, and even time-consuming, especially for larger projects. And during our conversation, Don noted that not every customer of Unico uses the V model either.
It's a hotly contested topic. Some customers don't believe in it, but it's still a very good visualization of the development platform when you're looking from taking a system or a vehicle perspective and breaking it down to the requirements of the individual components. So let's say on that left side of the V, you would have all of the defining of the system parameters, the performance specifications of the individual components. You would do a lot of simulation in these cases to try to understand how do we build up the appropriate components to work together to fill the system requirements. Where Unico comes in is we provide the test equipment on the other side of the V to validate that the components that have been developed or the systems that have been developed meet the requirements that were specified on the left side of the V. And then, of course, if you have the appropriate tools and you can take the data from the right side and then bring them into the left side in order to improve the development of future platforms, Unico's equipment can give you the data for that.
I mentioned the Shelby GT500 earlier. Being a Detroiter, I love muscle and performance cars. And AutoVision News has a sister publication called Automoblog, and over there we dive into the nuts and bolts of the latest vehicles. Over the years writing for Automoblog, I have really been able to see how a full vehicle comes together, from front to back, top to bottom, the whole picture. And when I was a kid, and I think like most kids, I was just obsessed with the engine, horsepower and torque, and actually I'm still obsessed with that stuff as an adult. But I have learned over the years that other systems, braking and suspension, for example, play a critical role in a vehicle's performance. What's really neat is how Don and Team Unico see this play out firsthand. Because of their focus in the automotive industry, they have a front row seat to how all of the advanced controls are being implemented into the latest EVs.
So I think we're all used to, let's say, traditional anti-lock brakes where you're on ice or you're on a slippery surface and you slam on the brakes and you feel that pulsing in the brake pedal. Well, that's actually the vehicle putting the brakes on and off quite quickly because it can do it much faster than us. Well, what we're seeing is that electric vehicles with the propulsion technologies that are available can do this with the electric motors in the powertrain. And this decouples it from the braking system. But to do that appropriately fast, you have to be able to control the inertia of that wheel and that tire. And in order to do that, you need somewhere between 100 to 150 kilowatts on each wheel in order to have the dynamic performance, in order to do advanced traction control, ABS using the electric motors, or even vector control, where you can actually use the wheels to help stabilize the vehicle in tricky conditions. Side benefit of that is if you have 150 kilowatts on each wheel, you have a 600 kilowatt supercar or a F-150 Lightning like I have that goes quite quick, and it's a lot of fun to drive.
If you get the chance to connect with Don on LinkedIn or in person at an event or conference, you will notice how he is always keeping his eye on the latest trends. As our conversation came to a close, I asked Don, what's on the horizon in the EV testing space?
There's several exciting trends, higher motor speeds. This allows us to gain efficiencies. It allows us to shrink some things down and then use gearboxes to get the speeds appropriate for powertrains. We're seeing these then utilized in lots of e-axles. We're also seeing higher voltages. I think a lot of your listeners are probably familiar with, Lucid and Tesla moving to higher voltages, higher power. This has a substantial savings on weight because the cables can be smaller, the currents go down, you can charge faster. So this is another very interesting driver, and it's also a driver for our test equipment. We're getting lots of requests for higher voltages, higher powers. We're quite often now quoting, building, and delivering 2 megawatt, 2000 volt, 2000 amp test systems to customers that are really pushing the limits for the next generation of EV powertrains. All of these technologies and the technological advances that we're seeing in the traditional transportation market are being carried over into other markets, and definitely seeing a trend for that.
To learn more about Unico, the quantum controller, and the V model, see the links in the show notes. AutoVision News Radio is available on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Podbean, and more. In Detroit, alongside Don Wright, I'm Carl Anthony, AutoVision News Radio.